Hello, everyone. Welcome to our District 10 runoff forum that we're doing with Miss Vinci Ory. We have invited Deborah as well, Deborah McCullough, who is the other District 2 or District 10 runoff candidate. And we had given her a couple dates and times to choose from, and she informed me that she was busy until the end of the election. So we were not able to get her to join us, unfortunately, but Miss Vinci has been gracious enough to join us, and we do have questions. So I have questions in advance that I was able to get from the community, and then we also are live. So we have anyone that has been invited to come and join us, they can ask as well. So we'll go through the questions that I got in advance first, and then we'll turn it over to the public. And we are recording this, so we'll show this to the public after we are finished rendering it, and they can kind of get to know Vinci a little more. And we also have a monitor that's going to be checking the questions and helping me out, because I'm going to be focusing on asking Miss Vinci the questions and making sure that the technical stuff is all working. And then our monitor will let us know if there's any additional questions, and then also dealing with the live portion of the people that are coming in and making sure that they're being recognized and answered and things like that too. So Miss Vinci, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
I'm so glad to be able to do this. Our PTAs in the area, when I was reaching out to the schools in the 3 districts that have runoffs, they had told me, actually the majority of the presidents had told me that they tried to put together a forum, an in-person forum before the original election, and they just were not able to get it done. And so I kind of stepped up and asked if they were interested. And since I couldn't find a location in such a quick period of time, but we thought, let's just do it virtually, and we'll have this forum
that makes sense
to the public. So, and
I think people don't understand too, like, you cannot do this in the schools. So if people are wondering, why don't we just do it in a school? You can't. It's not allowed.
They make it difficult.
So,
you can. I think there are some hoops you can jump through, but they make them very difficult, because we did look at that and before the original election and in District 10. I must say, my son is in District 10, and I love this district. We have some of the best schools, and district, I mean, I know you know them, but District 10 is Marigny Elementary, Magnolia Trace Elementary, Lake Harbor Middle School, Fountainblue Junior High, and then Fountainblue High School. So it's a very large school district,
for sure,
and a lot of children, a lot of teachers, a lot of parents, a lot of communities. So this is a very large, important district. They're all important. You only get one vote on the board, but as far as for me personally, this is my son's school district. So I know that the PTA presidents and PTAs, I'm on the PTAs that my son is in schools on, and I know you are too, and they're very involved, and I love that we have some amazing PTAs that are awesome. Oh, there's Miranda. So I'll come back to her questions. Let me give you a question to answer. I will get distracted. I have that squirrel mind, but we'll go ahead and get going. I want to try to keep this 30 to 45 minutes and respect your time and everyone that's coming on. So thank you to everyone again that is coming and joining us live or watching this as a recording. We so appreciate your time and just taking the responsibility of what it is to learn about the candidates so that you can make an informed vote. And we do encourage you guys, get out and vote on December 10th. It's next Saturday. So important. The 3 amendments are super important, as well as the runoffs. So just make sure you get out and vote. If you don't know what district you're in, feel free to reach out to Vinci or me, and we can help you figure out what district you're in if you don't
100%.
know. So anything else real quick, Vinci, before I jump into the first question?
No, jump in.
Awesome.
I'm ready.
All right, so I'm going to read these questions. These were sent in. This first one is kind of easy, and it's one of the few that I think is a repeat, but I think it's worded a little different. So this being your first time running for a public office, what motivated you to run for a school board position?
Well, my motivation to run was to give back to the community. And my husband and I are very vested in St. Tammany Parish. We have lived here for more than 20 years, and we've had children in the school system for over 20 years. And we, recently, a few years ago, became a substitute teacher just to give back. And I try to sub when I can. And I started realizing the needs of our teachers and seeing that our teachers' needs impact our students' experience. And so I felt like I could do more in a leadership role. I know that I have certain gifts and talents and life experiences that I could translate on a higher level than just as a substitute. Now, when I decided to run as for school board, I didn't realize that I have to stop being a substitute teacher. I was a little bit upset about that. And also, you can't hold an executive position on any PTA board. So we've kind of joked about that. Some of my teacher supporters and fellow PTA people were like, "Oh my God, we don't know if we want you to win now." But anyways, just kind of as a joke. But I do think that I'd be able to give back at a greater level on the board.
I love it. That's a great answer. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, coming from the community, I just think is so important.
Yeah.
So that's
Just
wonderful.
being a part of the community and realizing that, I need to give back.
You're already involved and you're wanting to get more involved. So.
Yes. And when you see cracks in the system, if you are going to complain about it, step up to do something about it. And I could step up.
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic. Okay. The number 2 question I have is, what skills, talents, and experience do you bring that will make you qualified and effective in this role?
Okay. Well, different life experiences. So number 1, having raised 6 children, I've had children in private school, I've homeschooled, and I've had children in public school. So I've seen the best and worst of all of those different academia situations, and over a long period of time, right? So my oldest is 31 and my youngest is 9. So I've seen it over time. And so just having that has given me perspective. Also, being in a social work background, my degree is in social work. And so I understand systems and how systems work and how each individual system works together. So home, school, community, they all have to integrate for our students to excel. Okay. And then also in my personal professional life, my husband and I have been fortunate enough to run businesses in St. Tammany Parish. And so that gives me a perspective as far as being able to allocate funds and how we need to track where we allocate our budget to see how it impacts goals and results. So things need to be results driven. And I think when people are in the public sector, it's different than when you're in the private sector. So in the public sector, your budget is funded every year, regardless of whether or not you meet goals. But in the private sector, you're only funded if you meet goals. And I think we need someone with that perspective that, hey, we need to make sure when we're allocating a $500 million budget, that we're actually meeting district goals. And clearly we are not at this time. So what do we need to do? We have all the puzzle pieces. We have a very involved community. We have the funding. We have everything we need. What are we doing wrong? We need to just kind of adjust that cube a little bit to get to the right formula. And that's what I think I bring to the table.
I love it. That's fantastic. I love the whole Rubik's Cube puzzle.
Kind of a little Rubik's Cube. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
What I had in mind.
Yeah. Well, it takes smart people to do those things. So fantastic. I love it. It sounds like you have a nice variety of skills, talents, and experience that will bring wonderful things to this role. Awesome. Okay, number 3. What have you identified as the main issues with the St. Tammany school system that you think the new, with you on the new board, can change and improve?
Well, we've kind of talked about this in the past. I think for sure we're talking about budget allocation. So like we were just talking about, like, where are we putting our money? We're obviously have a robust funding, but we're not allocating it in the right places. And that's number 1. We have an issue with curriculum. I think that most of the constituents here understand that our curriculum is not where it needs to be. for our children to be equipped with the skills that they need to be successful in a global economy when they graduate. And, you know, I think everybody's worried about the teacher and school employee shortage. That's certainly an issue that we need to address. And we have long-term and short-term solutions to that we can talk about. But those are some of the big ones. I think as a school board member, another huge issue for me would be stakeholders being able to be involved and have a voice, and me being their voice. And so I need to hear from my constituents and from the stakeholders so that I know what their concerns are. I think that's been a huge issue. There's been a big disconnect there. The school board's kind of just been in their own world, doing their own thing, and they've been very distanced from being people in the trenches. And so I'd like to change that.
I like that. That's awesome. Yeah, I have more questions on that line, which we'll get to in just a little bit. And I think they're coming up here soon. Before I jump into the next question, Miss Miranda has a really good question here. So I'm going to jump off of mine and go to hers because I think it's a good one to kind of transition to right now. She says, hi, I'm a public school with St. Tammany. I know that Miss McCullum is a retired teacher and principal. However, I noticed that the teachers union is backing Mrs. Ory instead. Why do you think the union backed you instead of Mrs. McCullum?
That's a great question. And I don't have any personal insight into that other than the feedback that I got from the board. There were, I was the union panel. I was able to meet with some of them after the fact. And a few of them just said that they felt like my ideas were a little more relevant and that Miss McCullum's ideas were a little more antiquated, and she did not seem to be, up to date and current with her ideas. But I hate to speculate because that was their decision. And we all answered a bunch of questions. I don't know if they made those public. I made my answers public. I don't know if Miss McCullum did. And I think they talked about doing that. And then we met in person to follow up with those questions. And so I would just imagine that they looked at maybe her answers and didn't feel like they would serve the community today. And I think maybe she had her opportunity to make a difference in our district. And so I think they're looking for new ideas. Personally, I don't believe that we need to put the same people in different positions that have gotten us to where we are today. If you want different results, we need different people to bring different ideas to the table. And that would be my guess.
Right. Good. I like that answer. And that question was really good, Miss Miranda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question that came in from the crowd, and we'll get to that. I'm going to go back to one of the questions that came in advance. So I do see the question that you posed, Miss Anonymous person. So in your own words, what is the role of a school board member too? And then I have a list of different categories. So students, teachers, parents, central office, and taxpayers. So that's like the first part of it. The second part is there a hierarchy amongst those groups? And then in your opinion, how would you rank your responsibility to each of those groups? So it's kind of like a 3-part question. So first of all, what is your role to teachers, students, teachers, parents, central office, and taxpayers? Those are like the five groups.
Okay, so you were asking if there was a hierarchy. Well, first of all, what is my role? Well, I'm a public servant. Being on the school board, you're a public servant. You're an elected official, you're a public servant, so you're representing the interests of your constituents. However, the role of the school board is to set policy and supervise the superintendent, hold them accountable, and central office, and to determine the budget. So basically, the role of a school board member is to pave the road for the superintendent and for central office and for the principals and educators to drive down. They do the daily work, right? You give them the car, they're driving down the road. You've paved the road. And then you're going to go back and make sure that they are on the right course. And if we need to course correct, that's on the board, right? So the day-to-day operation is on the shoulders of the superintendent and the central office and your educators and things like that. But we're all working together to do one thing, and that is to educate and give our children the best possible education that they can have. And so we're working together, but as a school board member, my job is to supervise that on a macro scale, right? And so our other stakeholders are doing that on a micro scale. So when you asked if there's a hierarchy, I think I would be remiss if I didn't say that the students come first, because that is our ultimate goal, is to educate our students. Now, every stakeholder is important, but the whole point of this is to educate our students.
Yeah.
And so, that would be my answer for that.
That's great. That's a good answer. I think it's very, very good. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. This is number 5. Last week, Lee Barrios was making public comment and was interrupted by the school board lawyer. Were you able to see that or be present at that?
Yes,
okay.
I did.
What were your thoughts on the matter?
I was not present, but I did watch it virtually. I just want to be clear.
Okay.
You asked if I was present. I was not at the school board meeting last week, but I did watch it virtually. So yes,
Right.
I saw that. What are my thoughts?
What are your thoughts on that?
That's an ongoing issue. Like I kind of alluded to that in a previous question, that I do not think that the board has been good about allowing stakeholders and the community to have a say, to be heard. They just are not heard. They're constantly silencing the people that they're supposed to be serving. And I think that's a huge issue. That is, I think, a huge difference between myself and my opponent. In one of her answers, somebody was asking, why do I think the teachers union supported me over perhaps Ms. McCollum? In one of her answers, she specifically said that the school board had strong community support because they welcomed open communication. I'm paraphrasing, but I could definitely look up her exact words. And I just thought that was so out of touch that is just not the reality of what we're seeing. And I thought what happened to Ms. Barrios was just awful, specifically because Ms. Barrios is such a resource. You may not agree with everything that she has to say. I do not agree with all of her stances on her, we disagreed on the mask mandates and things of that nature, but she is a very educated person and she presents her questions intelligently and professionally, and they were legitimate questions. She had a very legitimate point asking about why an uncredentialed person was put in a position overseeing an entire division. And that's a legitimate question. And if someone had a legitimate answer, they could have just given it and it would have been in the end of it, right? I'm all about discussion. Let's have a dialogue. And that's where I think the school board is having an issue. They feel so threatened every time someone asks them something. And that is just the opposite of accountability and transparency. Just say why you made the decision, unless you can't say because it's not what the public would want to hear, right? Was it because they knew someone? Is it the same old in St. Tammany Parish? Is that how that person got that? I have no idea. I'd like the answer as well. Just answer the question. It was a legitimate question.
Right. No, that's good. That's good. I do. I attend quite a few of the board meetings recently, and yes, the atmosphere, the animosity that is put across to the people there that are there to just either watch or participate with public comment is worse than I've seen in the State House. And I go and testify in front of in Baton Rouge, and I have never been treated or felt the way I've felt and been treated at the local school board meetings. It's insane to me. But yes, so I'm glad you've actually recognized that and have attended or watched videos of the live broadcasts. Because I mean,
I've attended multiple school board meetings, but that particular one that you were asking me, but I just wanted to be very clear that I wasn't at that one, but I did watch it.
No, I think that's good. I think it's good that you have, been participating in the board meetings. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Going to my next question. So this is a longer one. And this one is actually from me. So that's why it's a longer one. It's a four-part question. And there's kind of like background questions to build up to what the main question is. So my first question is, do you understand the term regulatory capture, which is used in reference to the CDC and FDA?
Yes.
Okay. My definition of this is when, for instance, when pharma owns the supposed independent regulatory consumer protecting agencies like the CDC or FDA, and if they're controlled by pharma, which they're supposed to be regulating, they are no longer effective and cannot provide protection to the public, right? So that's my definition. Would you agree and understand that that's kind of, do you have a different type of definition for?
No. I think that's yes. And in different circumstances, it would be different. But yes, I agree with you. Exactly. There's no real checks and balances there because and it's exactly what I'm saying with the school board, but go on.
Yes. And another checks and balance that most people would understand is the three branches of government, right?
Yes.
The executive. So
legislation.
They're there for a reason.
Yeah,
they're there for a reason. So going to the next part of this question is using that definition or the definition that we've kind of come up. Would you say that the current school board is captured by the central office or administrators?
Oh, absolutely. And, and it's by choice. It's by choice. They have abdicated their power by choice, I believe, but also it's a little bit of a form of intimidation. I have seen, in my opinion, where school board members ask the attorney that is on staff advice on maybe certain subjects, and he advises the board, but really it seems to me he has central office and the superintendent's goals and motives in mind. And I'm not saying this in a nefarious way necessarily. Right. I'm just saying that he can't represent both sides because sometimes they might be at odds, right? And so I have found that there's no independence. It just seems like whatever central office and the superintendent wants to push, that's what ends up happening, because the board doesn't have any support behind it independently. We don't have an independent auditor. We don't have an independent legal counsel. We have nothing but what the superintendent brings to the table, if that makes sense. I mean, we can't even put anything on the agenda other than what the superintendent and the president of the board wants to put on the agenda. So,
that's good. That's good that you've noticed that. And, I have spoken with other candidates and they don't recognize that. So I think that's awesome that you've recognized that in this short kind of period of time that you've been, running. The last part of that question is, how would you help to prevent this from happening in the next 4 years? I think you've already kind of said some of that, but I'll let you say it in your own words.
Right. I definitely think that we don't need to wait on anything. The school board needs to recognize that we are mandated. We're actually abdicating our mandated responsibility to oversee the superintendent and central office and hold them accountable. Not the other way around. I would probably advocate for independent counsel for the school board I think that's going to be important.
Mhm.
And ongoing auditing that answers to the school board and not um, to the superintendent first, then to the school board. I don't understand how that has happened. I'm not saying, again, my point here is that I'm not saying that anyone is doing anything um, illegal. The optics are not good. And I don't think that it is fair to our constituents. It really erodes trust, public trust,
Mhm.
when things are not transparent and they're not clear. We really need clearly defined roles. And that, I think, will help us not be distracted by those things so that we can get to the business of educating our children.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. I think that's a very good, well put answer. That brings me, I have one last question, but I'm going to go to the anonymous attendee. She has a
Okay.
question that I think you've already answered, but I think it's a good different perspective of
Sure.
I think the public, this is something coming from the public, and I appreciate them asking. And she says, are you going to be another puppet in Jabia's pocket, or will you stand on your own to do the right thing for the students of St. Tammany? We don't need another good old boy on the board.
Oh, well, unequivocal, like not even a question. Would I not be a puppet? It is why I ran as an independent. So people have asked me that question. Why did you run as an independent when you're personally conservative um, and a Republican? It was a not a well thought out decision. Let me just say that clearly. I admit that and own that. What happened was I decided to run, and I went down to go sign up. You have to go register and qualify. And so when I went to go qualify, they asked me, do you want to run as a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent? And I said, well, what does that matter? And they said, well, if you run as a Republican or a Democrat, it costs X amount of dollars. But if you run as an independent, it's cheaper. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because I'm running for school board. Like, it shouldn't even have anything to do with politics. Like, why are we even asking this question? So I said, I'm definitely running as an independent because I am not going to be in anyone's back pocket. I'm not going to, I have no one to be accountable to. I'm not a politician. I don't know anyone. I haven't signed any pledges. I haven't, drunk the Kool-Aid. I'm an independent voice for stakeholders. And so I think that is one of my strongest qualities going into the school board. I have no alliances with anyone other than feeling like I need to do the right thing by every stakeholder that I will represent.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. That's a great question. I appreciate the anonymous question. So thank you for that. Thank you for answering it so bravely and boldly. I think that's wonderful. Okay. And my last question, I think this is a fun one, but
Okay.
you can tell me afterwards. What have you learned in the last 6 months during your campaign?
Oh, that, you know, there's so much more to this than I thought, as far as the things that need to be solved. I would not, this is really going to take, it's going to be a full-time job, even though it's not a full-time paid
Mhm.
position. It's going to be a full-time job. There's so much work that needs to be done. I knew that I could contribute, and I thought I would be able to, I knew I would be able to contribute. I'm so thankful that I have the ability to contribute a lot of my time to this, because it's going to take a lot of work.
Mhm.
We really need to come together as a community, and I think I didn't realize how divided we have become, and
Mhm.
I don't want to go into it like that. I really want us to come together as a community to change our district and get us back where we need to be. And like I said, course correct. And I think it's going to take a lot more work than I ever dreamt of it needing. But there are a lot of cracks in the system that we're going to need to address
Yeah, that
on
haven't been
multi
addressed.
levels.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
haven't
that
been
on
addressed
multi
because
levels.
they've
Yes.
been doing,
I
yeah.
didn't realize how many people in the system are a part of the system because they knew this person or they knew this one, and then they this one hired this one, and then they went from this position to this position, and you know, it's concerning. It's really concerning. And I can see why nothing really gets done, because it's all the same people just kind of shifting where they are instead of getting people in there that are really qualified to do the job.
That's good perspective. And it's been a learning process, I'm sure, for you. So it's has for me too. I'm definitely new to all of this.
Me too.
That's
definitely
all
not a politician.
Yeah, your mom, you know, a PTA member. You're a person of the civil citizenship. So
yes.
Those are all the questions that are showing up. So I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes. If we have any live attendees that have additional questions that you'd like to ask Ms. Vinci, please type it into the question and answer box. I have another one, so I'll ask this in just a second, but I do want anyone watching the recording, please, if you have any additional questions that you have for Vinci or for Deborah, please reach out to them. I know they're both very
100%.
willing to answer your questions, and just make it a very educated vote on the runoff election on Saturday. It's just so important because
every vote will count.
Every vote is going to count. So bring your friends. And, if you want change, you have to vote change. Luckily in District 10, we do have it's going to be a new school board member, whether it's you or Deborah. But I just really think people need to take a look at the makeup of the current board, the makeup of the new board that's coming, and those last 3 runoffs. Those positions are going to be so important because all we need is 8 change makers to be able to sway the vote. And we have some really awesome people on this board. Ms. Vinci, I think, I think we have some great opportunities
I think so as well.
So, all right. So this last question that I see, it says, so basically you're saying you aren't scared to get in there and shake things up because that's what we need so badly, which I think goes along with what we were just saying. So yes,
I'm not scared.
She's ready to shake it.
Yeah, I'm not scared. And like I said, I'm not scared. I have nothing to lose. I'm not here for any personal gain. And so I have, and again, not only is that why I ran independent, but I also did not accept any campaign contributions from anyone. I self-funded my campaign because, like I said, I'm not a politician. I didn't want to be beholden to anyone once I got into office. So even, though I was endorsed by several organizations, the union, Alliance for Good Government, CCC, several places endorsed me, I did not accept any of their money because I wanted to be able to just say when I'm in there voting that my vote is a conscientious vote.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. Thank you for that last bit of information. Is there anything else that you would want to get out there?
Please go to vote December 10th. It's so important. And thank you, Abby.
Awesome. Thanks, Ms. Vinci. I'm going to stop the recording here. And
okay.
Yes, hold on. Try to find the recording here.
No worries.
Okay. Bye, Vinci.